Welcome to Healthy Future Vision channel. Imagine we're sitting together in a warm, cozy room with the late afternoon sunlight streaming through the window. I'm 60 years old and have spent more than 3 decades caring for hearts like yours. Hearts that have lived through half a century, carrying memories as well as quiet worries. Today, I want to talk with you about something neither loud nor obvious, yet it can shape the rest of your life: the early signs of heart valve disease. You see, our heart is not an endless machine. It has 4 tiny valves that open and close billions of times over a lifetime. I often tell my patients that if the heart is a home, the valves are the doors that keep everything flowing in the right direction. When those doors break down, the blood can no longer circulate as it should. The problem is, many people don't realize it until it's too late. I remember Ellen, a gentle 68-year-old woman who used to bring homemade pies to my clinic every holiday season. She told me that for months before coming in, she simply felt more tired than usual, sometimes getting short of breath after just a few steps on the stairs. She thought it was just age. By the time she started waking up at night struggling to breathe, we discovered her valve was severely narrowed. She said to me, "I wish I had listened to my body sooner." Have you ever felt like Ellen? Have you ever thought you were just getting older, just a little weaker than before, and dismissed the signals your heart was sending you? What I've learned after decades of practice is this: the body usually whispers before it has to shout. We often pay attention to sharp pains, yet valve disease rarely announces itself with dramatic cries. It often begins with shorter breaths after a walk that once felt effortless. It may show itself late at night when you need extra pillows because lying flat makes it hard to breathe. It can hide in a persistent dry cough or in a deep fatigue that no amount of sleep can wash away. I want you to picture this. Your heart is like a lifelong companion that has walked with you through every chapter. It works tirelessly, even when you're asleep. And yet so many of us fail to listen to it. Science tells us that more than 2.5% of adults in the US live with valve disease. And the frightening truth is that many don't know until it has advanced. I don't share this to frighten you, but to remind you that there are subtle yet precious signals. I once treated Henry, an elderly man who loved gardening. He noticed that his well-worn gardening shoes became tight by the end of the day because his feet were slightly swollen. He assumed it was just aging. In reality, it was his heart struggling against faulty valves. We intervened in time, and now he still tends his roses every spring. Perhaps you've had similar moments: unexplained tiredness, a brief fainting spell, a night when you had to sit up because you couldn't breathe. I want you to ask yourself, is this truly normal, or is my body trying to tell me something? As a doctor, I can tell you that today's research and medical advances have changed the game. We have echocardiograms, we have medications, and even minimally invasive valve replacements that require only a small incision. But all of these matter only if we detect the disease early. Consider listening to your body as part of the wisdom that comes with age. As I often tell my patients, we cannot turn back time, but we can decide the quality of the years ahead. Don't hesitate to share with your doctor if you notice anything unusual: shortness of breath, rapid unexplained weight gain, strange heartbeats. Sometimes what you think is trivial is actually your heart's call for help. I want to end with this message: your heart is not just a pump. It keeps the rhythm for every moment you love, every story you tell, every journey you still hope to take. Don't wait until it cries out for help. Start listening to it today. Every easier breath, every lighter step begins with recognizing those early signals. And if one day you find yourself wondering, am I worrying too much? Remember, wise concern is far better than late regret. You know, after more than 35 years sitting at my clinic desk, I've realized something. Stories about heart disease are not just numbers, not just ultrasound charts or test results. Each case is a person, a family, a piece of memory. And most of those stories begin with very small signals, signals that, if we listen carefully, can change the entire journey. I remember very clearly a man named Robert. He was 72, a retired high school literature teacher. He told me he'd begun feeling slightly short of breath whenever he climbed the stairs, but he kept telling himself, "I'm just getting old. It's normal. A few months later, he started having to rest midway while walking his dog. Instead of seeing a doctor, he blamed it on his jeans getting tighter. It wasn't until one night he woke up gasping for air that his family rushed him to the ER. The diagnosis: severe aortic valve stenosis. I share Robert's story not to frighten you, but to show that most of my patients don't neglect their health out of carelessness. They overlook it because they assume everything is just aging. But aging does not mean you have to gasp for breath after a short walk or be awakened by a dry cough in the middle of the night. Shortness of breath, the silent alarm bell. Perhaps one of the first and most common signs of valve disease is shortness of breath. Don't think it happens only when you're hiking or running. Many people notice it only after they can no longer walk out to their garden without stopping to catch their breath. I often ask my patients, have you ever felt the need to sleep propped up on 2 or 3 pillows instead of one? Have you ever woken up at night feeling as if you were drowning? If they say yes, I know their heart is struggling. A study from Johns Hopkins found that this is particularly common in patients with aortic stenosis or mitral regurgitation. When blood cannot move efficiently through the valves, fluid backs up into the lungs, forcing you to breathe faster and deeper, like trying to draw air through a narrow straw. Chest pain, a misunderstood cry for help. I've seen far too many patients come to me late because they thought their chest discomfort was just indigestion, spicy food, or soreness from exercise. Chest pain in valve disease is rarely a sharp, stabbing pain. It feels more like a weight pressing on your chest, as if someone is sitting on it. Imagine your heart having to work twice as hard to push blood through a narrowed valve. It's like trying to pump water through a kinked hose. When it overworks, the heart muscle is starved of oxygen and protests with pain or pressure. If that discomfort appears during activity but eases with rest, don't dismiss it. It may be a signal that your heart is struggling against a narrowed valve. Dizziness, lightheadedness, and fainting, the brain's call for help. I still remember Sam, a war veteran. He was walking his grandson to the park when he suddenly collapsed. Fortunately, he regained consciousness after a few seconds. At the clinic, he said, "I just felt a bit dizzy before that, but I didn't think it was my heart." Dizziness or fainting is not a normal sign of aging. When the valve narrows, especially the aortic valve, the heart cannot increase its output during exertion. The brain doesn't get enough blood and responds with dizziness or even fainting. If you or a loved one has experienced this, especially during activity, don't shrug it off. It may be a warning that your heart's flow is being blocked somewhere. Palpitations and irregular heartbeats, a disturbed flow. One thing I often remind my patients is that not every racing heartbeat is caused by stress or caffeine. When valves leak or narrow, the blood flow becomes turbulent, creating abnormal pressure that can trigger irregular rhythms. I once had a patient named Linda, 62. She described the feeling as if a small bird were fluttering in her chest. She thought it was just stress. On examination, we found she had mitral valve regurgitation with atrial fibrillation, a common rhythm disorder. Early treatment helped her avoid a stroke. If you often feel your heart skipping, fluttering, or racing for no clear reason, consider it a message from your heart, not just anxiety. Swelling and rapid weight gain, when the river stops flowing smoothly. The heart is the body's pump. When the pump weakens, water, or more accurately, bodily fluid, begins to back up. Many people notice their usual shoes feel tight by afternoon, or that their feet leave a dent when pressed. I treated an elderly fisherman named Walter. He told me his waistline had grown quickly over a few weeks, even though his diet hadn't changed. In fact, it was fluid accumulating in his abdomen due to his heart's reduced pumping efficiency. After treatment, he returned to fishing and told me, "Doctor, I never knew fluid retention could be so dangerous." A weight gain of 2 to 5 pounds within a few days, unrelated to eating, is a sign you need to pay attention to. Persistent fatigue, when energy runs low. Many people believe fatigue is just a natural part of aging, but I've seen quite a few patients regain their vitality after we treated their valve disease. When the valves fail, The blood, the body's fuel, doesn't reach where it's needed. Muscles, the brain, and organs have to function on a limited supply. You may find that shopping, cleaning, or even a simple conversation leaves you exhausted. I often tell my patients, if you feel drained by tasks that once felt easy, don't be too quick to blame it on aging. Nighttime cough, the whisper from the lungs. This is one of the most overlooked signs. A persistent nighttime dry cough, not due to allergies or a cold, may be a sign that your lungs are filling with fluid because your heart isn't pumping effectively. My patient Margaret once needed 3 pillows to sleep because each time she lay flat, the cough returned. After undergoing valve replacement, she called me to say that for the first time in years, she slept flat on just 1 pillow. Heart murmur, the early warning sound. Sadly, patients cannot hear a murmur themselves. Many of mine discovered their condition during routine checkups when the doctor detected an unusual whooshing sound. Under a stethoscope, that murmur sounds like wind passing through a narrow doorway. It indicates that blood is squeezing through a valve that isn't opening or closing properly. Early detection through a murmur allows us to intervene before other symptoms appear. Why early detection matters so much. You may wonder, I've lived more than 60 years, why worry about a little shortness of breath or a cough? I understand that thought. But valve disease has a dangerous trait. It can progress silently until it's severe. Today, with echocardiograms and modern treatment methods, we can detect and intervene early, avoiding emergency surgeries and helping the heart stay healthy longer. Looking back on my career, I realized the biggest difference between patients who stay well and those who end up in emergency rooms isn't their age. It's how early they discovered the disease. I want you, the person hearing this story, to take a moment to think about your own body. How long has it been since you had your heart checked? Have you noticed you tire more easily or need extra pillows to sleep? Don't brush it off as trivial. I often tell my patients, the heart doesn't speak, but it knows how to send signals. Our job is to learn to listen. Your 50s, 60s, and 70s are not the time to ignore your health. They're the time to enjoy the years ahead, the trips you want to take, the afternoons with your grandchildren, the quiet moments in your old armchair. Don't let a silent disease steal those away. Make an appointment with your doctor and tell them what you've been experiencing. Sometimes just one visit and one echocardiogram can reveal where your heart stands on this journey. Among all the stories I've told and heard, the one that troubles me most is the phrase, "I wish I had known sooner." I don't want you to have to say that. Treat these signs, no matter how small, as gifts from your body, reminding you to care for yourself. Caring for your heart is not just about adding years to your life. It's about preserving the loving moments, the peaceful afternoons, and the restful nights. My dear friend, if you followed along this far, I believe something inside you is quietly stirring. Perhaps it's a question. Am I ignoring some signal from my body? Perhaps it's a memory of a night when you had to sit up to breathe. Or perhaps it's simply a lingering doubt about whether growing older must mean becoming weaker. I want to tell you this. Growing old is not an ending. It's a new chapter, one where we learn to live slower, live deeper, and truly listen to ourselves. I've met thousands of patients over 50, and I've come to see that their hearts, just like yours, don't merely pump blood. They carry memories, hold love, and safeguard precious moments. Imagine your heart as a silent companion. It has worked tirelessly, from before you could even speak to the time you became a grandparent. It never demands anything, just keeps a steady rhythm day after day. Yet sometimes we ignore its whispers, until it has to shout through breathlessness, sleepless nights, and the heaviness in our chest. I still remember one of my patients, Helen, who was 70. After her valve replacement surgery, she held my hand and said, "Doctor, now I finally know what it feels like to take a deep breath without that weight on my chest." That sentence still moves me, because it reminds me that sometimes what we lose isn't youth. It's the simple things. A full breath, a peaceful night's sleep, a leisurely walk without having to stop to rest. The wonderful thing is that today's medical science gives us the chance to reclaim those simple things. We have echocardiograms to clearly see the faulty valve. We have treatments, from medications to minimally invasive procedures, that can help your heart work more easily. But all of these only truly help when you choose to listen to your body and seek care early. I know it's not easy to face the fear of illness, but trust me, timely concern is far better than late regret. A single health checkup, an honest conversation with your doctor, can change the entire journey that lies ahead. I want you to ask yourself, how long has it been since I truly cared for my heart? How long have I ignored those strange signals, shortness of breath, irregular heartbeats, the nighttime cough? Am I ready to give myself the time I deserve to live the years ahead with a healthier heart? Someone once said, we cannot decide the number of our years, but we can decide the quality of each one. I believe that. And I believe that caring for the heart is how we safeguard not just our health, but also our memories and the moments worth living. If you or a loved one notice the signs I've described, even mild ankle swelling or shorter breaths than before, don't wait. Call your doctor to schedule an appointment. Consider it a gift you give to yourself and to those you love. When I look at an ultrasound screen and see a heart beating strong after treatment, I don't just see a biological organ. I see a story, the story of trips not yet taken, of family dinners, of peaceful mornings with a cup of coffee. Your heart deserves to be heard, to be cared for, not because it's a pump, but because it's the clock that keeps time for the moments of your life. Don't ignore your heart's whispers. Listen to it, care for it, and give it the chance to keep journeying with you in the years ahead, not just to live longer, but to live more fully. Thank you for listening to this story. If you find these words helpful, share them with your family and friends, because sometimes a story told at the right time can save a heart that's quietly calling for help. Together, let's slow down a little, listen to our bodies, and cherish every precious heartbeat.